We just learned 17-year-old Taymor McIntyre has been arrested in New Jersey by the U.S. Marshal Service. He's being held there pending his extradition back here to Texas. McIntyre, who's from Arlington, is suspected in a capital murder case and had been described as a violent fugitive. He's been the subject of a nationwide manhunt.
What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, Tay K. I'm back with another video. If y'all would like to join the community, please join the Reddit, please join the Discord. There'll be a link down in the description below. Now, I'm sure y'all have seen this interview with Tay K's uncle. I thought this interview was absolutely crazy, to be completely honest. And I'm sorry that I always have to be the bad guy bringing all this information. You know, I always have to be the one, bringing the absolute truth. And just being completely honest, it seems to be that for some reason, a lot of black people in my community, we just love to sympathize with criminals.
Tay K was a monster.
Right.
Why are you trying to humanize him?
Right.
Why are you trying to show a portrayal of him when he allegedly, took people's lives and all this type of shit? Then you rewind the clock and you look at his mother and you realize the situation she was in. But then the stuff you said about her mother, you got to rewind it even more and say, look, this is a long, systematic series of events that are very unfortunate. And to just say, Tay K was a monster is a gross oversimplification of the situation, right?
And for some reason, it's like when it comes to criminals, we just have to be so understanding. We got to think about where they came from, the environment that they grew up in. No matter how destructive it is to the black community, no matter how many black people die, no matter how this affects the black community as a whole, even the innocent people who aren't criminals, who aren't gangbanging, no matter how big of an impact this has on the black community, we have to be understanding to these criminals. We always have to sympathize. We always have to be empathetic. We always have to, think about where they came from.
I had to discontinue a lot of people that was like, your nephew's a murderer. You don't even know what happened in that situation. First of all, if you had a child or someone you loved, you'd be cautious how you stepped on that situation. Third of all, you got to understand, we all human beings, right? We go through some things.
And for some reason, I truly do not understand this for the world. Other communities would have easily exiled these people out of their communities. Even in the Jewish community, if you have tattoos, you can't even be buried in the same place as your family. Other communities are so strict, they have actual standards to where they don't accept this nonsense within their communities. And for some reason within the black community, for some reason, we have to be understanding to these people. And I just don't get it. Why do we have to understand where these people came from? Obviously if they knew that they grew up in a bad environment, then they will want to get out of that environment. Or if they like it, then they would just stay there. We always speak about things like the CIA, the FBI, the KKK, all of these other organizations that have affected the black community, through propaganda, through manipulation, through violence, through all this other nonsense, right? Why do we bring that stuff up? Why? When we have these criminals who look just like us within our communities doing the exact same thing, if not even worse.
There is a right and wrong, and there's a right and right. But nobody gets the picture of our society. It's like, yeah, I'm 20s, 19th Street, feel me? West Coast. So what? But it's like, you know where you were born. But guess what? Where were you born?
New Hampshire.
Okay, listen. So if a from New Hampshire fly here right now and somebody kicking his ass just because he's from New Hampshire, isn't it your job?
No.
You get it now?
To me, a Tay K, to me, a NBA YoungBoy, to me, a Sexy Red is way worse than the KKK and the CIA and the FBI will ever be. These people have affected our community in the worst way. And these people tend to have so much influence on the youth and on the black community as a whole. And for some reason, we just hold these people up to our highest standard, acting like, these are the people that we should be looking up to, as if these are the people who deserve all our empathy. There has to become a point in time where we just stop accepting this BS within our community. I talk about white supremacy all day, but there is no white supremacist that is going to cause as much damage as these people when we have our own people sympathizing and trying to make excuses for all these criminals and all these degenerates within our society. His uncle wants to talk about, how Tay K grew up in a bad environment, how his mom, grew up in a bad environment, how her mom and her dad, grew grew up in a bad environment, and this is just a trickle down effect. So when is this going to stop? Are we going to, have empathy and sympathy for Tay K's kids if he does ever get out and have kids? Or are we just going to, keep on making excuses? Like, when is this going to end? And, so many people, they're going to be in my comments, just, talking about, oh, you're not being understanding. These are going to be points that white supremacists can use. And you're obviously not from the community. You must live in the suburbs. It's like black people are always making the most excuses for these criminals and for these degenerates.
You hear the stories, you hear the ugliness, and it's sad that people don't take time to open up that package and see like really things that you hear, and then you DM the kid's mom like she didn't have anything to do with that, but you can feel how painful it could be to open up something that what I'm saying. Like, we're not expecting everybody to be nice, but damn, like, be respectful, right? And understand the story.
Why can't we just come to the understanding that these people are bringing the black community down? Like, why can't we just exile these people and say that there's going to be a zero tolerance within the black community and we will no longer accept this? If you act this way, we're going to tell the cops ASAP and we're going to have you locked up. Because this type of degeneracy, this type of nonsense is not about to continue. And, there needs to be a stopping point. Like, why can't we just do that? Why do we have to make all these excuses? Why do we have to come up with all these talking points? Talk about racism, talk about white supremacists, talk about how, the white man has affected us so badly. And believe me, I understand. I know all of our history. I know about all of that. But we can't continue to bring up these things like white supremacy and our history in the past, and even things that are affecting us in the present. Like, we cannot continue to talk about these things if we're going to sit up here and make excuses for all these degenerates and all these criminals within our society. There just has to be a stopping point. I would like to have a legitimate conversation down below about why we accept this stuff within our community, why we have to be so empathetic, why we have to be so understanding towards these criminals who continuously bring down the black community. His uncle, if his uncle really loved him, if his uncle really had love for the black community and actually understood, how this is affecting the community as a whole, then he would have had a zero tolerance for this, and he would have, really got on Tay K's ass and, told him, as a man, there's no excuses for you to act this way. You have control over your life. There's no excuse, for trying to blame things, trying to play victim. You have complete control over your life. You're in America. You're not in a third world country where you have to struggle, where you have to do all this other nonsense. You're the only one who can control your destiny, and you can't let your environment affect that. You have to be able to overcome these obstacles in your life. And, his uncle actually being from the military, I would think that he, has some discipline skills, to teach Tay K. But he was over here trying to teach his nephew military skills when he saw that he wasn't on the right track. So why would you even, train this criminal, this known thug, like any type of military skills? Like, this is just insane.
Do you remember having any conversations with Tay K about the gang thing? Because he had a lot of Crip related lyrics, like even at a certain point, him doing all the crazy stacked gang signs together became like kind of like this iconic image of him. For a lot of people, they just couldn't believe they were looking at a kid this young who knew 15 different gang signs that he was putting all together and shit like that. Like, what was his early education into all that?
Well, he was a product of his environment. He saw his dad. His dad was a Crip. His mama was still banging, so that's a Crip family. So when I would get him and see him, I would try to teach him more tactical stuff. I was in the military, so hey, this is what you do, because he was always infatuated with martial arts and shooting. So I would go out there and do certain things with water guns and BB just to show him and do some things with him.
But this is something that actually happens quite often. You have these people who go off to the military, who are from these certain environments, who still hold on to their hood mentality. And then they go off and learn these military skills and then come back to the hood and then teach all these thugs and teach all these gangsters. This has been something that's been going on for years and years. And, his uncle, I don't believe that his uncle is completely innocent. I'm pretty sure his uncle was definitely in that environment and still had that hood mindset. of trying to let this stuff continue, and didn't think it was a big deal until his nephew actually got caught up in the situation. And now you have all these people that want to cry and complain about it, and it's like, oh, we should have did better. Well, no shit, bro, no shit, you should have done better. Y'all are adults, and there's no excuse for his mom or the dad. They're adults over here having children. If you know that you weren't raised right, if you know that you're not ready to have kids, then you should be keeping your legs closed. You should be a responsible adult. Like I said, I just hate to be the bad guy. Actually, I don't hate to be the bad guy, because I love to tell the truth, but the truth hurts, man. We have to hold people accountable for their decisions and what they're doing to the community. Like I said before, most of these women should not be having kids. Most of these men should not be sleeping with these women. They should be focused on their life, trying to get their mindset straight, and not trying to be repopulating the black community with all these criminals and all these thugs. But that's why me and just like a lot of other people will constantly keep on reporting these thugs, so we can clean up the black community, and I hope not have this be a problem that is just going to persist within the black community, because at some point this needs to stop. But I would love to hear y'all thoughts down in the comments below. Please let me know what y'all think about this. And once again, if y'all would like to be a part of the community, please join the Reddit, please join the Discord. It'll be a link in the description below. I'll catch y'all in the next one, all right?